Okay, good morning. It is Wednesday, March 27th, and welcome to the State Government Committee. And to you, Mr. Clerk, would you please call roll?
Representatives Alexander, Bricken, Butler, Carringer, Chisholm, Dixie, Haston, Holsclaw, Hurt, Jernigan, Johnson, Leatherwood, Littleton, McCalman, Miller, Pearson, Powell, Powers, Rudder, Terry, Vice Chair Eldridge, Chairman Kiesling.
Here. Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, we do have a quorum. He states, so we will get, we have a long calendar, ladies members. So anyway, but anyway, we do have, they have given us, the House Clerk has given us an additional hour, members, an additional hour if we need it, and we will. I would assume we will. But again, we're not in this case. This is the final calendar, but we will be moving into next week if we don't finish. So it's not a great big deal. Anyway, this day in history takes us back to the year 1884. It's the first long distance telephone call was made from Boston. It originated in Boston, and it was the call was made to New York, NYC, in New York City. The year 1912, on this day, the First Lady Helen Taft and the wife of Japan's ambassador to the United States planted the first two of 3,000 cherry trees given to the U.S. as a gift by the mayor of Tokyo around the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. And it is, those of you who have experienced that, it is beautiful, beautiful up there at this time. 1930, the first U.S. radio broadcast from a ship at sea occurred. And in 1939, we're going into March Madness. March Madness crowned its first men's NCAA champion, which was the University of Oregon. They defeated the Buckeyes, Ohio State, 46-33 on this date. That was in as I said, 1939 to win the first ever NCAA men's basketball tournament. And taking you back to 1956. I'm sure a few of you maybe can remember that. Just kidding, of course. The number one song was the ballad of Davy Crockett by Bill Hayes. Bill Hayes. All right. All right. We have any further announcements or personal orders for membership? Yes. Representative Pearson, you're up, sir.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Some of my constituents, I hope they stop in from Levi Elementary School, are here with their counselor, Mr. Richard Horner. They're four little elementary school children. So just welcoming them to the Capitol and appreciating them being here. And then recognizing that today is a sad day in Tennessee history. A year ago, today was the devastating Covenant school shooting, the largest school shooting in our state's history. And I'm remembering those families and families in our district who are experiencing gun violence. Auntie Lavonda, Larry Thorne's mother, Dr. Yvonne Nelson, my mentor, who was killed due to gun violence, and my own cousin, TJ, who we lost due to gun violence. And just that this epidemic is plaguing us. And I hope that we act, as one of my pastors said, Chairman, praying with eyes wide open, that we have to be focused and intentional about doing everything we can to address this problem and continue to keep people in prayer and continue to pray with our hands and with our feet and in our work. Thank you.
All right. Further announcements or personal orders? I do. We in the back, and I want all of our TCAP folks, our students from or anyone affiliated with TCAP, please stand first of all and let us recognize you. Yes, thank you very much. Great having you all. Well, you may be seated. Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. Further announcements? I see none. So let's get the wheels turning here. I do need to make 3 announcements as we begin. To your calendar, members, item number 12, House Bill 2247 has been taken off notice. Item number 15, House Bill 2946, off notice. Item 25, House Bill 2673, off notice. Now, special calendar, that was item number 1, House Bill 1247. So per our committee's rules, this bill, HB 1247, has been sent to the clerk's desk. That we are ready. We have made an exception on the calendar for our dear friend, Representative Freeman. Representative Freeman has a pressing meeting further downtown. So Bob, if you would at this time, we're going to bring you on up to and item number 10, members. Item number 10, Representative Freeman, do we have an amendment?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Drafting code 15519.
That's correct, sir. We got a motion and a second on the bill. Just a moment, please. All right. Members, this is House Bill 1870. We did get a motion and a second. Bob, or Representative Freeman's already given us the tracking code for his amendment. Do I get a motion? Yes, we got a motion and a second on that. Let's get it on there. So we do need to vote to adopt this. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. And the ayes prevail. All right. Representative Freeman,
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, sir. So House Bill 1870 comes out of a rape case that happened several years ago, where multiple eyewitnesses allowed someone to be carried past them unconscious. This person was then raped. It expanded to bystander intervention at schools. And as they were examining other cases of rape, they realized that it was also happening at bars where people were being served alcohol. As many as 50% of rape cases involve some occurrence of alcohol. And so what this does is requires the ABC to include in their training for a license to serve alcohol, an educational piece that allows them to recognize and intervene for bystander intervention. And it works with other nonprofits to create that program. And with that, I stand ready to answer any questions.
All right, very good. Thank you, Representative Freeman. Any questions to the sponsor? I see none. Got a call for the question. So let us vote. Those in favor of House Bill 1870 as amended, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes prevail. And Representative Freeman, you are headed to calendar and rules
Thank you, Chairman.
on that one, I think. Is that right? That is correct. Yes. All right. Moving on to the next one. Item number 11, House Bill 1672. No amendment. Do I have a motion and a second on this one? We do. So, we're going to recognize you, Bob. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, sir. House Bill 1672 aims to solve the problem of overseas sporting events. In not too long ago, government has signed a law allowing alcohol sales on Sunday. Currently, they begin at 10 a.m. We're seeing a lot of these games push forward into the 8 a.m. And so what this would allow is for us to align on-sale sales of alcohol, or on-site sales of alcohol, to begin at 8 a.m. And with that, I stand ready to answer your questions.
Thank you, Representative Freeman. Any questions to the sponsor? I see none. So, if no objections, we're ready to vote. Those in favor of House Bill 1672, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes prevail.
No.
Ayes prevail. And please notify the clerk if you have a no on that one.
Chairman, thank you for,
All right.
for seeing me early.
Okay. Representative Freeman, get to that meeting, sir. All right. We are now back to the top of the calendar, members, with House Bill 2873. And Chairman Reedy, you are the one carrying this one.
Yep. Thank you.
All
Mr.
right. Do we
Chairman.
have a motion and a second? We do. We have a motion and a second. And I see, Chairman, you have an amendment. Would you please give us the tracking code?
That tracking code is 15530.
That is correct. Members, let's get this one on the bill. How about it? Got a motion and a second. So any objections? Call the question, but let's vote. Those in favor of amendment 15530, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. And Chairman Reedy, you are, we now have that on your bill of 2873. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I'm bringing this forward for the Speaker Sexton. Says last year we passed legislation to create the Inmate Disciplinary Oversight Board for the purpose of reviewing the granting, denial, and removal of inmate sentence credits for good institutional behavior or satisfactory program performance. This cleanup bill will add language that would allow the governor, the Speaker of the Senate, or the Speaker of the House to remove their respective appointees for cause. This is common language for boards that are created by the General Assembly. It was inadvertently left out of last year's bill.
Very good. All right. That is the explanation of the bill as amended. Yes, Representative Powell, you are recognized.
Thank you, sponsor. Appreciate you bringing the bill. Could you give a few examples of what cause would be?
Chairman Reedy.
Well, I'm not a professional in this matter, and I would ask that maybe we talk to legal to get.
We can do that. Of course, we will. If there's no objection, we will go out of session and we will recognize Mr. Matt Monday. Mr. Monday.
I think Matt Mundy from legal. I think examples of cause would be willful misconduct in office, neglect of duty or neglect to perform a duty pursuant to law, something along those lines.
Representative Powell, follow up? No, he says not. Yes, we do. Representative Miller, you're recognized to council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of any member of any board that the General Assembly had to confirm, would that apply? Legal?
Would that
Would they
apply?
have-
Okay.
Right, would they have to come back to the General Assembly once the Speaker or the Governor? decides
Okay,
to
Mr. Monday.
Go somewhere.
Matt Mundy for the record. If I understand your question, are you asking if those particular circumstances apply to all appointed members to boards?
Representative Miller.
Yes.
It depends on the board. A lot of boards have language like this that they can be removed for cause by the appointing authority, but other boards and entities have specific provisions about removal in terms of what they can be removed for. And generally speaking, if it's silent on the matter, the power to appoint implicitly includes the power to remove, but generally officers that aren't otherwise removable pursuant to constitutional provisions are removed through the ouster process, which is in Title 8.
Representative Miller,
Thank you. Thank you.
follow up? No, he says not. Any further questions to legal while we're out of session? I see none. No objections? We are back. We are back now. We want to recognize Chairman Reedy. We want to recognize Chair Lady, our famous Chair Lady Littleton.
Thank you,
You're
Mr. Chairman. I
recognized.
call for the question.
She has called a question, and I see no objections. Let us vote on House Bill 2873 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes prevail, and congratulations, Chairman Reedy. You are off to calendar and rules, sir. Yes, sir. All right, item number 2, House HJR 849 by Representative Powers, or Chairman Powers. I'm sorry, of course. Chairman Powers, you're recognized at your seat, sir.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. House Joint Resolution 849, by the way, today's Hamburger Day on the Hill.
Today.
Keep that in mind. House Joint Resolution 849 is a resolution to urge the United States withdrawal from the United Nations. The United Nations was created in 1945 in the aftermath of World War II as a means of trying to establish greater cooperation among countries, but now the United States provides about a quarter of the UN's budget. It's right around $4 billion in 2021. We paid in $1 billion, plus we donated another 11.5 billion, so 12.5 billion. was included with our assessed amount and the voluntary amount. The UN often pursues an agenda that runs counter to what the Americans' policies goals should be. Other UN initiatives that threaten American sovereignty, such as the Law of the Sea Treaty, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the Arms Trade Treaty. The UN has a history of anti-Israel rhetoric and actions. In 1975, the General Assembly Resolution 3379 determined that Zionism is a form of racism and racial discrimination. Since 2015, 140 UN resolutions have been filed criticizing Israel during that time, while only 68 resolutions have been filed against all other countries combined. United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East has extensive links to Gaza and the Islamic terrorist groups such as Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. The United States has an excellent relationship with the North Atlantic Trade Organization, or NATO, which functions similar to the UN, but in manners more closely aligned with U.S. interest. H.J.R. 849 urges Congress and the President to withdraw the United States from the United Nations and strengthen America's ties with NATO so as to better serve our country's interests. With that, Mr. Chairman, I renew my motion.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Powers. And members, you've heard an explanation. First up is Representative Pearson. You're recognized.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I urge my colleagues not to support this resolution. Look, we have had in just the last month or so here, Nazis actually marching here in Nashville from our state capital. The UN was created after the Holocaust, after World War II, where many people, including strong American soldiers, were killed fighting in order to preserve sort of peace and world order. The United Nations was formed after World War II. It remains, and its goal is even one place where the world's nations can gather together, discuss common problems, and find shared solutions. Our statements need to be finding ways to encourage this, not to be against it. I don't understand why we would say goals such as ensuring we do something about climate change, some of these other goals, ensuring we have clean water and sanitation, no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequality, sustainable communities, the peace, justice, and strong institutions. Like these are the things that we should be seeking to create for ourselves and in our own country, in our own state, especially in the world. And withdrawing from the United Nations, or even recommending that we would withdraw from the United Nations, would only sow discord, would only ensure that we are not at the table when the conversations are being had about world peace. And just recently, if I'm not mistaken, Chairman, the United States did not veto a resolution as it related to the war in Gaza due to the humanitarian crisis that is happening there. And so while I understand the political slant of what you're saying, the consequences of the United States not being a part of the conversation when it comes to world peace and helping to sustain some sense of world order is quite dangerous. And NATO, while I agree it's very important, it is not inclusive of all countries. It's the North Atlantic. And so that would literally exclude hundreds of countries that are part of the United Nations. And we, as the most powerful country in the world, have a responsibility and obligation and opportunity to be a part of those conversations and to advocate for world peace, and do that in all the ways that we can, including with our resources. And so, and I would just say this last point, because we talk about wealth and industries in this country a lot, and you talk about money. And there are trillion-dollar institutions, including Apple, that gets a lot of its resources from the continent of Africa and the mining that happens there. And so our interconnectedness with other countries is not something that's about to go away, right? And withdrawing from the world stage is not a solution or a resolution that we should support in our state or ever. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. You're very welcome. And we have others. Chairman Powers, shall we move on?
Just one comment.
Okay, you're recognized
on that. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say that there are certain things that the UN does that, that we just really don't understand. That, like in 2019, Venezuela, under the control of Maduro, authoritarian socialist government, was added to the organization's Human Rights Council. That's the things that we go against. The 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council are China, France, Russia, United Kingdom, United States. And so a lot of times they are vetoing anything that we do because they have one vote to veto. Um, in 2011, the UN General Assembly held a 1 minute silence for the death of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-il, despite his record of atrocities of killing his own people. These are so many things that the United States disagrees with with the United Nations, and on that stage, we are a member of NATO. We are a member of the American Organization of States, so we're not withdrawing from that. But we think that the UN could be better served if they want to be in another country. But what they've done right now, they've become a bunch of countries that are trying to extract money in a wealth distribution way from the United States. And they do that through, you were talking about climate change in 2005. Al Gore said in 10 years, our planet will be a frying pan. Well, here we are in 2024. We're not a frying pan, are we? And so with that, I just think that the whole climate change agenda and so many other things that are trying to go on now with the United Nations are trying to extract money. It's a wealth distribution project for the United Nations, and we don't want to be a part of it. Mr.
Representative
Chairman.
Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's absolutely unbelievable that we are pretending that climate change is not real. I've had the good fortune of getting to know Vice President Al Gore, and we've had the hottest summer and will have the hottest summer on record. The reality is we are experiencing climate change in ways that are really harmful across this state and across this country and across the world. And the people who have done the least to create climate change are the ones who are suffering the most. The reality is we are having and are experiencing the hottest years on record. That is what is happening. It is true, and you're
Please,
putting your head in the sand because you're not
Let's-
talking about
yeah,
reality.
let's-
We're talking about the United Nations
know,
and its focus
I
on climate change and the environmental solutions that ensure that we will have a survivable climate. The United Nations is a leading entity as it relates to making sure this conversation doesn't go away. So we are on the bill, to my colleagues who don't think that we are. And if you look at the 17 goals of the United Nations, this is clarified there. You are absolutely wrong. History is proving you wrong. And I think that we have a responsibility as the most powerful country in the world to do all that we can as it relates not
Okay.
only to climate change, but ensuring world order and peace.
All right, let's move along. Representative Chisholm, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real quick, I appreciated the debate we're having on the subject matter, but I could have sworn I walked into a state government committee. So I'm trying to figure out what this bill and this debate has to do with Tennessee state government. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Further questions? Any further questions? We got a call for the question, did we not? Okay, I'm sorry, did miss that. All right, any objections to the call of the question? See none. Let us vote on item number 2, HJR 849. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes prevail, and we will be moving on to calendar and rules. That will. Now, item number 3. House Bill 2845, Representative Gant, you're up. Come right on up.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on this one. We have an amendment. And once you are seated, would you please give us the tracking code, sir, of the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, if I could take a personal order before we get started to recognize somebody, could I do that real quick?
Of course you may.
We have former Representative Jamie Jenkins in the audience with us, and constituent Bill Buff is with him. If we could make them feel welcome being
Certainly.
back in the House.
Thank you for being with us, gentlemen. Thank you, and appreciate your service to this great state. All right, Representative Gant. Now, back to the question. Your tracking code is,
Bear with me one.
and this is amendment number 2 now. This is the second amendment that I'm referencing.
What tracking code do you have?
I have 15306.
That is correct. That's what
That
I
is
have.
correct. He
Okay.
concurs. That's correct. All right. Let's get this one. Do I have a motion and a second on the amendment? Yes, thank you. And we will, no objection, we will vote on amendment 15306. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. And Representative Gant, you are recognized on House Bill
Thank-
2845
thank you, Mr.
as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know we've got several in line here, and I'm going to be as brief as possible. Mr. Chairman, this is the bill that's titled Tennessee Prevention of Drunk Driving Act, and it has 5 parts that work together to study the DUI problem and find solutions, educate the public and policymakers on the level of excessive alcohol use here in Tennessee, deter overconsumption and underage drinking at licensed establishments across the state. And but before I detail what each section does, let me describe the magnitude of the DUI problem and the excessive alcohol use here in Tennessee. Since last year alone, Tennessee law enforcement arrested, now this is staggering, Tennessee law enforcement arrested nearly 18,000 people for drunk driving across the state. And that's just the ones that got caught. And it's estimated that some of the judges that I talked to across the state said that it's estimated that the first time a DUI, the first offender, is estimated that he drove 50 times drunk before he got caught with that first DUI. So and we've got 7,297 alcohol-related road crashes in the state. 292 fatal drunk driving crashes in Tennessee. 1/3 of all road fatalities were caused by alcohol. 1 in 2 DUI crashes resulted in injury or death. And DUIs cost Tennesseans $849 million last year. And impaired driving is destroying families, as we see just about every week of a tragic story of somebody's daughter or husband or son that got killed at the hands of a drunk driver. And law enforcement across the state is doing everything they can, Mr. Chairman, but they need help in solving this problem. This bill is a step forward in our efforts to combat drunk driving across this state. And it's not just with autos, it's also we're seeing with watercraft across this state as well. We've got to reduce the excessive use of alcohol and the dangerous levels of excessive drinking in Tennessee, which is killing, as I just described, Tennesseans every year needlessly. All right, and I'll get into the heart of the legislation now. The bill has 5 sections, and the first part of it is this will allow an opportunity to have all voices heard in one place. And what's going to happen is the speaker is going to appoint 6 House members, and the Lieutenant Governor will appoint 6 Senate members to be appointed to a task force this summer. And what will happen is that they'll come together, they'll bring testimony in from different sectors of the alcohol industry, law enforcement, different people with different voices on how to, better combat this issue. The second part will require law enforcement to notify the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission of any alcohol-related road deaths within 48 hours. Law enforcement will now be required to investigate if a licensee overserved a drunk driver. These investigations across the U.S. and informally in Tennessee, this law will now require law enforcement to notify the Tennessee ABC within 48 hours of that alcohol-related crash that took somebody's life. And a lot of times we do that now, but it's not in code that it's required on every accident. But this will be required of every accident that where a Tennessean was killed, that it be reported to the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission. It also will require the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission to issue a report to the General Assembly every 2 years about the key data points related to excessive alcohol use here in Tennessee. And it will provide, current statistics of citations, number of alcohol-related traffic crashes, number of DUIs, BUI arrests, number of alcohol recovery and treatment admissions, number of alcohol-related hospitalizations, and ER admissions. And that's another side point I want to make. If you talk to a lot of our hospitals across this state. There's a lot of indigent care and cost that is expended by our hospitals across this state because of drunk driving crashes as well. The third part of this, it will increase the alcohol server training. Right now, servers are required to have continuing education every 5 years. This will reduce it down to every 2 years. And most of us that have professions, like whether you're an attorney or an insurance agent, we all have continuing education requirements. And most of ours, like in the insurance industry, it's every 2 years. So this just kind of brings it more in line with what most other industries are doing, from 5 years down to 2 years.
Representative Gaddy, if I may, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I'd forgotten there is a 5-minute limit. Please, if you could just, and I apologize, could you wrap it up in a minute? Let me give you another minute here to do this, if you could, please. I apologize, but I failed to announce there's 5-minute limit here. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. The last part is we'll require the Highway Safety Office of Impaired Driving Advisory Council, which is known as IDAC, to submit reports and recommendations by December 1st of each year. And since I'm being cut off, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I understand. We do have some support, some testimony. Is that correct, Representative Gant?
Mr. Chairman, that's totally up to you.
Well,
but
of course, we
Norris,
would grant that, of course, if you'd want them to come up.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Norris Skelly is here.
Of course, we
and
would allow that.
would like to testify if that's at your.
If there's no objection, we will allow that testimony to come up for 3 minutes. And okay, if you would, please have a seat and identify yourself. And again, please tell us who you are representing or with, please. You're recognized. Scoot that up where we can hear you. Okay, there you go.
Good morning. My name is Norris Skelly, and I'm a longtime volunteer with Mothers Against Drunk Driving here in Tennessee. On August the 14th, 1993, my family became a member of an organization you never really wanted to join. My wife's youngest brother, Chris Knatzer, was killed by a repeat DUI offender in Fentress County. Blood alcohol level of 0.25 at 3:09 on a Saturday afternoon. This person had been on the road for 7 years, no license, because of being restricted from DUIs. We got involved with MAD to try to make a difference, and I think we have done that in these 30 years. There were stretches when the numbers would come down on crashes, on how many fatalities there were, how many serious injuries there were. But in the last 5 years, we've seen those numbers go back up, nationwide and here in Tennessee. The numbers I found from NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, were in 2019, there were 268 alcohol-related traffic fatalities in Tennessee. By 2022, that number had increased to 353. These numbers should be unacceptable to everyone, Impaired drivers, whether it be alcohol or other impairing substances, endanger everyone you meet on the roadways. Representative Gant was hit by a drunk driver about 2 years ago, suffered those life-altering injuries. Sometimes there are things worse than having a family member killed in a drunk driving crash. It is having to deal with those injuries every day to someone who is bedridden for the rest of their lives. House Bill 2845, we have an opportunity here to step out and say, this is a serious problem. We in Tennessee are ready to take a stand and make changes, necessary changes. We have got to stop this carnage on our roadways. How many of you drove into this town this week for session? I think every one of you probably drove or rode down here somehow. If you knew how many people you met on the roadways that were impaired, you'd probably never get on the roadways again. It's a problem that's here in plain sight, and we need to address it. And I think 2845 is a very good step forward. And I ask for your support for it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, very much. Any questions to Mr. Skelly? By the members here? No, I see none. All right. Thank you, sir, for your time. Thank you very much for being with us. No objection. We will return back to session, and Representative Gant, you're
Thank-
again recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will close with this. Many of the members here on this committee and in our across our legislature, Democrat and Republican, are supporting this legislation. So this is a very bipartisan approach that will have a meaningful impact, I think, once we get this passed and go into the summer. So I'd like to thank those members. I think we have 70 plus members signed on, Republicans and Democrats, supporting this legislation. And also in the Senate, it has unanimously passed in the Senate. So, and it's headed to the Senate floor. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Representative Powell, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I just want to say, Representative Gam, I'm glad you're able to be here today before us. I mean, we're very fortunate in that. I know you have life-altering injuries from that, but we're very blessed that you're still here with us. One thing is, I just wanted to get on the record, because you know how some of our constituents and people across the state can be when they see a bill and they don't read amendments. Just to clarify for the record, this bill no longer, as written, it would prohibit the selling of retail refrigerated cold beer. That no longer is part of the legislation. Is that correct?
Representative Gam.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, he is exactly correct. And if I could, let me just take a brief moment to expound on that.
You may.
That idea, as we all come here each year, sometimes we file what we call as caption bills. And we had a working group put together in the fall and coming into January, and we didn't quite have all the legislation. We had plenty of ideas, but we didn't have everything in the meat of this legislation yet. So we filed a caption. And that caption, unfortunately, when it was filed, had the regulation of cold beer as the main attractant to this overall legislation. But that was not, obviously, that is not in this legislation. So, and that idea came from if you talk to people that have been affected by DUI crashes that have lost loved ones, and you talk to law enforcement, you will find out that there is a lot of these single serve, high alcohol content beer containers that are sold in convenience stores that are easily accessed by the bad actors. And we were never trying to ban cold beer from being sold in convenience stores like the 12-pack or 24-pack for responsible people taking that home and drinking it at their house. The idea came from the targeting of these single serve, high alcohol content beverages that a lot of times you'll see them sitting there on ice as you check out at the convenience store, and they're huge and they're cold. They're ready for somebody to drink as soon as they get in their car. And it goes back to what I said. You'll talk to law enforcement and people affected by a drunk driver. A lot of times they find these single serve alcohol containers where they're open, they're drinking them, and they're obviously drunk before they kill that person with these single serve alcohol containers. So Representative Powell, thank you for bringing that point up. And I wanted to clarify that so that everybody watching and listening as we go forward would know where that idea came from.
Representative Powell, follow up.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate you clarifying that. So I'm still getting some communication about that, and I was like, try to explain to folks. So I appreciate you doing that on the record, and I look forward to supporting your bill, and you can add me as a co-signer as well. Thank you, co-sponsor.
Thank you, sir. Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, sponsor, for the legislation. I think, today we already recognize it being the anniversary of Covenant, and one of the things that I appreciate about this legislation is it takes a real problem, right? That's one of the leading causes of death for people in our state, and it says we have to do something. And people may not believe this, but even when it was the previous legislation and it was talking about cold beer, I was like, we should do everything. right? And like it seems extreme and people scoffed at it, but it's like when you have a crisis that is like this, you have to do and try everything. And I had known about sort of the single serve aspect of it, so appreciate you articulating that. But that is something that we should look at as legislators to say, how do we prioritize public safety? And though it might seem extreme, if it could help to save someone's life, if it could help to prevent an injury happening in the ways that happened to you, then we really need to consider it and need to act on it. And so just appreciate you taking your experience and the experience of so many others and saying, let us do something and let us continue to do more. And so thank you so much for the legislation.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Representative Gant, follow up.
Representative Pearson, I appreciate your being a co-sponsor of this as well and your support. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Terry, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. And I do want to appreciate the dedication of the sponsor and commend you for your work on this issue. And I just want to clarify on your task force, speaking of impaired driving, that this is not, as I read it, this is not limited to just alcohol impaired driving. Would this also include like Delta 8 or other chemicals from an impaired driving?
Representative Gant?
Yeah,
Follow-up?
yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this will, anything that distracts that driver as far as a substance that they're taking and they're driving, this does include more than just alcohol, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, got it. All right, Chairman Powers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Gant, for bringing this. I know that, know what you've been through, and I know it's been tough for you. I happened to notice in the bill you had watercraft included also. One thing that Chairman Kiesling and I come from an area where there is a whole lot of ATV riders, and almost every accident or every death is revolved around too much alcohol, and they're usually airlifted out of our area to a hospital. I was just wondering, would this also include the statistical part of it? Would it also include ATVs and the problem that we're having with alcohol-related deaths on it?
Representative Gant, you want to answer that or defer to legal?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to address that. Thank you, Representative Powers. I think the task force is open-ended when it comes to that. I mean, we're welcoming a lot of different voices on impaired driving, whether it's a vehicle, a boat, or ATV, because now, as you see, a lot of these all-terrain vehicles are now roadworthy, and they are licensed for roadworthy to be able to drive on the road. So yes, that will be part of this legislation as well. And I know you have a specific problem over in East Tennessee that we've talked about, and want you to be very much part of this conversation as we go into the summer.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Follow
Thank
up,
you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman. No, he says no. Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to follow up. Chairman Terry had mentioned in the legislation that it includes more than alcohol. Could you expound on that again? What does it include?
Representative
Everything
Gant?
that it includes.
Well, there's no real, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's no clear identifying factor in the legislation, but anything that would make a driver impaired, whether it's, I know there's a lot of substance abuse out there, so anything that would make that person impaired to get behind the wheel and turn that vehicle into a weapon, so to speak, and potentially kill people, that will be part of the conversation. So, and I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's what the intent of the task force is for.
Representative Miller, follow up. Sir.
Yes, yes.
You're recognized.
Yes, anything that would impair.
That is
And-
correct.
And these will be recommendations coming from the advisory committee
That is correct.
that would put anything in effect at that point.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and that report will come back to you in the General Assembly, and we'll have recommendations that hopefully will come from this task force.
Thank you,
Fol-
Mr. Chairman.
Follow
Thank
up, Representative
Thank you.
Miller.
Thank you.
Okay, he says no. All right, Chair Lady Carringer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Gant, for bringing this bill and working so hard with everyone. We do have a serious problem here in the state of Tennessee, as well as I think the U.S. As we're very thankful that we have you here. to bring this before us. And as I mentioned in our subcommittee, my family was touched by a drunk driver before I was born, and I never met two uncles, an aunt, and or three uncles and an aunt. Was my mom's baby brother, her daddy's two brothers, and a sister-in-law, the wife of one of her uncles, that I never met. And this was all in one accident, killed by a drunk driver. So I have been touched by and heard about those wonderful, beautiful people that in my family that I never met, and the devastation on the entire family there. So, and I'm glad that Chairman Powers brought up about the watercraft, because I also noticed that in there, because we had a bill in our subcommittee that dealt with watercraft, because I'm always jealous of Chairman down there because he lives a little closer to Norris Lake than I do, but I try to get there as much as I can. And so being water people and realizing and seeing the accidents that are happening across our waterways. So I do hope that we're able to work, and that this task force that gets started will be able to include all of the waterways, and particularly any other things that drivers and riders of the ATVs and the jet skis and boats that would impair their driving, that, you know, that Tennessee can be a leader in being strong about this. And so I appreciate you so much, and hope that that all the work that gets put into this will come out to be something good for the state of Tennessee. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lady Carringer. That's a wrap of those requesting. Any, you want to conclude with any remarks then?
Mr. Chairman,
Representative, before we vote?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this committee for the time we've spent on this, and I want to apologize for the sponsors that are presenting legislation behind me for taking so much time on this. I apologize for taking up so much time. So, but I'm at your will and move passage on this.
Of course. I see. All right. It looks like this is it. No further questions to the sponsor. Let us vote. If there's no objections, we're going to start to vote. Those in favor of House Bill, and my apology, House Bill 2845 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes prevail. And this one is headed on to Finance, Ways, and Means. And with that, remain seated, Representative Gant. You're number 4. And this is House J. We already have a motion and a second on SJR 856. Representative Gant, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All this does is this is solely recognizing Steve Sweat, a constituent in McNairy County, as the honorary state historian of the late Sheriff Buford Pusser, and that is all this is doing.
All right. For any questions to the sponsor? See none, got a call for the question. So let us vote on SJR 856. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. And this one is headed to Calendar and Rules.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
All right. Go ahead. Okay. Next, we have item number 5. And as we get started, we're going to go ahead. Item number 5, House Bill 2889. Chairman Todd, we got a motion and a second. All right, let's get those in favor. Please say aye. No. We got an amendment. Apology. My apology. Would you please give us your tracking code?
Thank you,
Chairman,
Mr.
sorry
Chairman. I
about
love that
that.
progress, but tracking code 15653.
65 is correct. That is correct. So here's the amendment. Do I got a motion? Yes, we got a motion and a second on this one. Let us vote. Let's get it on the bill. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Chairman, it is now on your bill, and you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill only requires the registration of agents representing foreign principals from countries of concern: China, Russia, Iran, Syria, Cuba, Venezuela, and North Korea. By requiring those agents to register with the Tennessee Ethics Commission and disclose their role as an agent of a foreign principal, Tennessee can ensure greater transparency and accountability for those who might lobby against America's interests. The countries of concern come from the U.S. State Department. With that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Chairman. And we have Representative Pearson up first. Representative Pearson.
Thank you so much, Chairman, and thank you, sponsor. What effect does this have in relation to the Foreign Agents Registration Act run by the Department of Justice?
I'm sorry, Chairman Todd, go.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
you're
you, sir.
recognized.
This puts this registration on the state level so that our folks, our own state folks, can keep up with that.
Representative Pearson, follow up.
Thank you.
Okay.
The Foreign Agents Registration Act has the filings of everyone who is a foreign agent in this country. In fact, on this website that already exists, you have active registrants. You can do it in a date range. You can do it by country or location. All this information is already accessible. And so why are we creating, I think it's about 18 pages of bureaucracy here to duplicate what's already being done instead of something that would just have our State Department or whomever in our government just go check those filings to see who's working in Tennessee.
Chairman Powell, or Chairman Todd, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that question. I believe just having this on the state level where our own state folks can monitor this, especially when it comes to our local governments, I feel like there are always some bad actors looking to influence state government and our local municipalities, especially, that we need to recognize and make sure that they have the awareness of who those folks work for and maybe what their interests are, and keep that on a local level so that, again, they can be more accessible to them, and our own ethics bureau can keep up with that.
Quick follow-up, Representative Pearson,
Yes.
please.
Any foreign agent has to document that with the Department of Justice. You understand that part?
Chairman Todd.
If that's a question, yes, I do understand that
Okay.
part. And this is dealing with lobbyists primarily, not just, an agent in some other realm as well, but lobbyists primarily.
Okay, Representative Pearson.
Thank you.
go
So
ahead.
here's the challenge that I have. I think this is duplicative and very likely going to be a waste of resources for our state. The information that, and I've read all 18 pages of it, that you're articulating is accessible, including the applications for the Department of State. And again, my colleagues, you can look up these filings right now of everyone who's a registered agent from any country, whether they're doing work in Iowa, whether they're doing work in New York, anywhere. And this is already run by the Department of Justice. And so I unfortunately, and I know some people like to talk about smaller government, but really I think this is just, inflating with $200,000 worth of cost, something that's already being done by the Department of Justice. And instead of doing something like this, I think there's a much easier, much quicker fix of instructing a department to just go look at that website, see who's working in Tennessee, because it would be illegal for these countries of concern, as you articulate, to be doing work in our country without them going through Department of Justice. And so this creates an unnecessary process, and I think it is not a good use of our resources or our department's resources. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a call for the question. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm sorry. I guess we do have a call for the question. Any objections? We're ready. Let us vote. So House Bill 2889 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
Ayes have it. And this is headed on to Gov Ops. Chairman Todd, stay put. You are next with item number 6. And we have a motion and a second. No amendments. So let us, all right, Chairman Todd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This joint resolution reaffirms the General Assembly support for all the people of the State of Israel and expresses hope that the State of Israel and its neighbors can live in freedom and peace with mutual recognition of each other's dignity and autonomy.
Okay. All right, so this is item number 6. Senate Joint Resolution 870. I failed to do that for the record. Okay, you've had a question. Okay, Representative Pearson, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. And I read this resolution, and there are some parts of it that I actually do agree with, sponsor. But overall, I do think that it is ignoring some realities as it relates to the humanitarian crisis that has happened since October 7th. We all know the tragedy of what occurred in 1,200 folks who were killed in Israel, and we know the ramifications over the last several months of the bombardments that have happened that have really disproportionately hurt women and children in Palestine. And now we're dealing with a famine and a crisis of really despicable proportions, similar to some other places that we're seeing, like in Sudan. And I think the real challenge that I have with us colleagues passing this type of resolution is it actually is not factual. And so one of the things that's mentioned here is it mentions our shared commitment to the advancement of democratic values, cultural ties, and the desire for peace among all people of all nations. Right now in Israel, this just happened under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu. They literally tried to strip the Supreme Court of their power. And the Supreme Court, in an 8-7 decision, struck down that law because they said it would cause severe and unprecedented harm to the core character of the state of Israel as a democratic country. And so we can't say that they're living into these values when the people who are leading the country itself are not living into democratic values, are not seeking peace in the ways that we would need for them to in order to preserve people's lives. And so I don't want us to be passing resolutions, and Chairman Chisholm mentioned this before, on international things, but the other part is there's just inaccurate information. And so while I know we need to do all that we can to end this crisis, hopefully have a two-state solution, I think this resolution, it's false. It's wrong. And it is not addressing the humanitarian crisis that is there. And so that's why I cannot support this sponsor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, we have testimony. We have requests for testimony. We're going to ask the two, I think it's down to two ladies. Am I right? Correct? If you would, please come forward, have a seat at the table. And we are going to, no objection, we're going to go out of session and recognize these ladies. You know the routine, I think, ladies. Yes, go ahead and push that button and scoot that mic up to you. And we'll first recognize Ms. Stansberry. Please, again, name and your affiliation. Thank you.
My name is Angel.
Oh, and three minutes, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angel Stansberry. I'm a law student here in Tennessee. I oppose Senate Joint Resolution 870. I find the language in this resolution to be troubling. Line 1 of the resolution refers to a sovereign state of Israel being established in 1948. But what is not stated is that the British Empire, who themselves illegally occupied Palestine from 1917 until 1948, lacked the legal authority to convey a country which was already inhabited by Jewish, Christian, and Muslim Palestinians who had lived there for hundreds of years together. Line 5 of this resolution goes on to say that Israel has repeatedly been forced to defend itself since it is in a hostile environment. To quote Jewish historian Noam Chomsky, "The wanton killing of innocent civilians is terrorism, not a war against terrorism. A civilian death rate of 92% is cruel and inhumane. Moreover, it goes against principles of legitimate warfare, including the law of discrimination, which is the act of differentiating civilians from military combatants, and the law of proportionality, using only the amount of force necessary to neutralize the force that it faces. The indiscriminate targeting of civilians is a war crime. We should not be glorifying such brutality." I think most of us would agree that the Arab nations surrounding Israel have shown incredible restraint. So I do not share State Representative Hensley's categorization of a hostile environment, because I can clearly see who is instigating hostilities. The resolution goes on to laud the impressive technological prowess that comes with Israeli commercial interests. But for all the impressive AI technology employed in this regard, no one can deny the medieval-style barbarism of this mass slaughter of innocents. Violence only begets more violence, and these actions on the part of this far-right Israeli government do not keep our Jewish brothers and sisters safe. In fact, quite the opposite. Over 100,000 northern Israelis have been evacuated, and this is in addition to the 500,000 Israelis who used their foreign passports to flee to their actual country of origin immediately after October 7th, a luxury that the Palestinian people do not have. Israel has lost 60% of their trade economy. Is this how we protect Israeli people? We have to be realistic here. Currently, we are seeing the lowest recruitment numbers in our armed forces in decades. We have about 400,000 troops who are already overextended. We withdrew from Iraq. We fought ISIS in Syria for over a decade, and ISIS is still alive and well. We fought the Taliban for 20 years, only to replace them with the Taliban. We haven't won a war in the region yet. We need to unsubscribe from this myth of American exceptionalism. We will not win a five-front war with the potential of being a world war. Israel is not representing the values that we
Ms.
claim to be so
Stansbury.
proud of, and we need to cut the cord. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, please. Please, your name and affiliation.
Fatima Karwandiar, and I am opposing the Senate Joint Resolution 870.
You may proceed. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I can talk about the fact that more children have died in Gaza from October 2022 to February 2023 than that of children killed in conflicts around the world from 2019 through 2022. I can speak to the death toll for women and children in Gaza exceeds 6 times that of the ongoing Russian-Ukraine war. Instead, I'm going to start with some world history, in particular, British imperialism on the Indian subcontinent and the Middle East. The British Crown transferred power that led to the passing of the Indian Independence Act on July 18, 1947. And not even a month later, August 14th and 15th, Pakistan and India became sovereign nations. Whereas in the Middle East, in 1915, the British needed the help of the Arabs in defeating the Ottoman Empire in World War I, which they succeeded in doing. However, at the same time, there were 2 other agreements the British Empire made. There was an agreement between France and Russia to carve up the Ottoman Empire amongst themselves. There was a third and separate agreement with the Zionist community called the Balfour Declaration, promising the Jews their own ethno-state within the borders of Palestine. Same imperialism, but completely different outcomes for the native people of those lands. The Indians rebelled against the British, whereas the Arabs helped them. I'm going to stop with the world history and turn to U.S. history, particularly presidential history, and in particularly Republican presidential history. On June 7, 1981, less than 6 months after Reagan took office, Israel launched a surprise bombing raid on the Iraqi nuclear reactor. And in doing so, it violated the airspace of Saudi Arabia and Jordan, who are our allies. What did Reagan do? He supported the UN Security Council Resolution 487, which condemned the attack, criticized the raid publicly, and suspended the delivery of advanced F-16 fighter jets to Israel. A year later, in August 1982, when Israeli forces advanced beyond southern Lebanon, Reagan responded with an angry phone call to then that Prime Minister of Israel, demanding a halt to the operation. He also intervened to stop Israel from bombing a hotel that housed 100 Western journalists because he didn't like the media coverage. Reagan also restricted aid and military assistance to Israel to help force its withdrawal from Beirut and central Lebanon. Reagan allowed 21 UN resolutions that condemned Israeli behavior and actions to pass. Now, let's talk about President George H.W. Bush. Before the peace talks in Madrid in 91, Bush suspended financial assistance to Israel until assurances were given that no further Israeli settlements would be established in the Palestinian territories.
Thank you.
I have like 2 more sentences. Can I just please wrap it
2
up?
more sentences, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
He
Go.
told Congress he was going to veto that legislation. He held a press conference because he was being pressured by AIPAC and pro-Israeli lobby. So in closing, British imperialism brought us to the present day, the settler colonial project that is Israel, which is sustained through American taxpayer dollars to the tune of $318 billion, the largest recipient of foreign
Please
aid.
cooperate with me. Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you.
I just want to reflect in the minutes that
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. Any questions? I don't think there's any question, but are there any questions? Yes, Representative Miller, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for your presentation. Fortunately, SJR 870 doesn't have any power. I don't even think it has any influence in this setting. And I said, fortunately, I certainly will not be supporting it. But let me read the summary of the bill. Reaffirms General Assembly support for all the people of State of Israel and expresses hope that the State of Israel and its neighbors, I'm assuming Gaza and all of its other neighbors, can live in freedom and peace with mutual recognition of each other's dignity and autonomy. If that was the language and nothing else, would you be in support of that?
I wouldn't support it just because it does not mention the Palestinian people by name whatsoever.
Representative
you.
Miller.
Thank you for that. And I agree with you. But if we could just include that, and I say this to the sponsor, and left it that way, then I would feel at ease of saying, okay, let's go for this. Because what's this mentioning in this that's more important than the rest of that language, and not including Palestinians' language, is the fact that we're looking at peace, mutual recognition of each other's dignity and autonomy. Why can't we keep it that way? Why can't we focus on that as opposed to this continuation of speeches? Further, how do we divide? How do we divide this world? How do we divide this state? How do we even divide this committee? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Miller. Further questions? We must move along. We must. Okay, any further questions? No, I see none. We are back into session. Thank you, ladies. Now, your chairman is needed in another committee, so I really need cooperation. Let's quickly wrap this one up, either up or down. I do need to go back to, I need to recognize Chairman Todd, though. Chairman Todd, any follow-up? on that? He says
I
no.
appreciate the support.
I've got a call for the question. Yes, and I see no objections. Let us vote. Those in favor of SJR 870 as amended, please say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes prevail, and you are moving on, Chairman, to calendar and rules. Thank you very much. Now, if no objection, we're going to go back. I'm going to have to go back out of session. We're going to hand the gavel over to Chairman Eldridge. This chairman has got to go, and I shall return. Okay.
We are back in session, and Representative Pearson for a personal order.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to welcome constituents and family from Memphis who are here to our counselor at Levi Elementary School, which my brothers went to, Richard Horner. Thank you for being here. And to these amazing fifth graders, Kirsten Burris, Trenton Davis, Kalyan Posse, Davaria Harris. Thank you all so much for being here. If you just stand and wave your hand at the committee. And I see some other folks from District 86, if you would stand, Ms. Juliet Eskridge and so many other leaders who are here. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you, and it's the honor of my life to serve you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Next up on the agenda is House Bill 2176 by Representative Lynn. We have a motion and a second, and Representative, I believe you do have an amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. My amendment is 013844.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. We'll go ahead and put the amendment on the bill. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. You are back on your bill as amended, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is intended to put a little muscle in the Sunshine Law. And as amended, the bill will allow a court to award citizens their court costs and reasonable attorney fees should the citizen win and if the court decides to do that.
Okay.
And that is about it.
All right. Are there any questions for the representative? Question has been called. We are voting on House Bill 2176 as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and you are moving out to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Chairman.
luck. Thank you. And Representative Lynn, you have the next item is HJR 856. Do we have a motion and a second? And I do see that you have an amendment on that one as well.
I do, sir. And the amendment is 016555.
That is correct, and it does rewrite the bill, I believe.
It does, sir.
So without objection, we'll add the amendment to the bill. All in favor, please say aye. Got a little close on that one then. The ayes have it. And, okay, we are back on your bill or your HJR as amended. So you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, members. This bill means a great deal to me. This is a resolution to urge the Department of Corrections to consider the age of inmates' children, along with the frequency of visitation, of regular visitation, prior to employing a long restriction on family visitation as punishment, and consider perhaps a shorter restriction combined with other methods of discipline for those inmates whose children may be subject to the development of abandonment syndrome. This resolution actually comes to me from a constituent. They have a family member who is incarcerated, and they have the children. They bring the children regularly for visitation with their mother. And unfortunately, a bunch of the inmates got caught up in something, and she was punished too for a year restricting visitation. And so those little children who are very young, we're talking 3 and 5 years old, they had, I saw it with my own eyes, the terrible effects of not being able to see their mother and not understanding that at all. And in the end, it did work out well because the department did discover that they had employed too long of a restriction on visitation. And so it was cut back to 3 months, which was wonderful that that happened. But the family just asked, is it possible for you to run a resolution asking the department to be mindful when there are small children who could be prone to abandonment syndrome? Many children with abandonment syndrome grow up to one day be incarcerated themselves. And we're just asking the department, we don't want to, we know the department needs discretion to determine effective discipline for inmates, and we know the department has to maintain order. But we also ask when they're small children and they do visit regularly and they have that bond with their parent, that they may be mindful of the situation.
All right, members, so you've heard an explanation of the bill. Question has been called. We are voting on HJR 856. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and you are moving out to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next up is item number 9, House Bill 2767 by Chairman Grills. We have a motion and a second, and you do not have any amendments, so you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Today, we're here to help the Tennessee farmers, landowners by providing liability coverage for conservation districts. While Soil and Water Conservation District employees have permission to utilize federal vehicles to travel to farms to assist with conservation projects that prevent soil erosion, they do not currently have insurance coverage to cover them if they utilize these federal vehicles. This legislation classifies as state employees for the purpose of liability protection the Soil and Water Conservation District employees, officers, agents, and volunteers while acting within the scope of their mission, helping people help the land. And that's what we do here with this bill. Very simple, but yet it's going to help a lot of rural communities.
All right, we've heard an explanation of the bill, and Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Chairman. And Thank you for bringing the bill. I'm maybe right now, but as you know, I'm very interested in environmental justice and the things that we do to protect our planet and to protect our environment. It's very important to me, which is why I was sad you rolled my bill to May 15th in the committee. But we fight on. How many people will this impact, and are there any legal ramifications for the state and increasing the number of people who are sort of going to be considered, as I understand it, state employees under this?
Chairman Grills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not know how many people this will affect. I do not believe that there's any legal ramifications for us. These employees already have permission from the federal government to do this, but they cannot use those vehicles because they did not have the classification as far as from the state and that liability protection when they get in those vehicles.
Okay.
Representative Flip?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. One, I think it's important, again, that we have as many people as possible to protect our waterways, to protect our forests, to protect our land. And I think it's important that we do all that we can as it relates to environmental justice mitigation and that type of work. And so I'm going to support this bill and hope that we see more legislation like this and that you'll do the same. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Chairman Grills, you have a?
No.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion? Question has been called. All in favor of House Bill 2767, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. You move out to Finance, Ways and Means, sir. Okay, we're going to move to item number 13. And that is House Bill 2658 by Chairman Holtzclaw. We have a motion and a second. And Chairman, I believe you do have an amendment. Is that correct?
Before we do that, HB 2658, I'll take that off notice.
Do you want to take 2658 off notice? All right. So without objection, House Bill 2658 is off notice. And that brings us to item number 14, House Bill 1937, also by Chairman Holtzclaw.
Thank you, Chairman. And we do have a couple of amendments on this.
I do see that. Are you running with a particular one?
Both, please.
2 and 3?
Yes.
All right. And all right. Do we have a motion on?
Motion, second.
Okay. We do have to do these, I believe, individually. Okay, we are on House Amendment number 1, which has a drafting code of 015307.
That's correct.
All in favor of this amendment, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. So that one would be on the bill. And then we have House Amendment 3, or Amendment 2, I'm sorry, with a drafting code of 017261. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay, so we have a motion. We have a motion and a second on this amendment as well. So with that, we're voting to add that amendment to the bill. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That amendment goes on the bill as well. So, okay, all right, Chairman Holtzclaw, I want to recognize you for any further comment.
Thank you, Chairman. This basically is our premier omnibus bill, which allows unique locations to serve alcoholic beverages. And with that, I renew my motion.
All right, heard the explanation. Is there any questions? Question has been called. All in favor of, gosh, what is it? Okay, all right, I lost my page there. All in favor of House Bill 1937 as amended, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And you, sir, are going to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chairman, Committee.
Thank you. All right, moving to item number 16, House Bill 2607 by Representative Carrington. And we have a motion and a second, and I believe you do have an amendment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are you moving with
The amendment 015525.
Okay, 0
Zero
1
one-
5 5 2 5. Okay.
Correct.
All right. And this does rewrite the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, it does.
All right. So we're going to, without objection, we're going to vote to put this on the bill. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The amendment goes on the bill, and Representative, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. So House Bill 2607 was brought to us by ABC. They are in support of this bill. Current law regulates the sale and distribution of hemp-based products, and ABC has asked that the legislator clarify in Title 57 that retail package stores licenses are authorized to sell hemp-based products, which is current practice. So what this does is that any of the retail package stores that want to sell, they need to get a permit. And so ABC will be able to come in and regulate the retail package stores that may be selling this to see if they've gone and gotten their permit to sell. So with that, I would ask for your support.
All right. Question has been called. We're voting on House Bill 2607 as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And Representative, you move out to Finance, Ways and Means. Thank you. And brings us to item number 17, House Bill 2345 by Representative Bricken. We have a motion and a second, and I do not see an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to roll this bill to the hill of the day's calendar.
Okay, with that objection, roll to the hill. Brings us to item number 18, House Bill 2934, also by Representative Bricken. We have a motion and a second, and Representative, I believe you do have an amendment on this one. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's 013-91910.
All right, sir. And it does rewrite the bill. Is that correct? We
Yes,
have a
sir.
motion and a second on the amendment to add it to this bill. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. So you're back on House Bill 2934 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last year, we passed a law that required county and city legislative bodies to make agendas available to the public at least 48 hours before its meeting. Today's bill would add state boards, state commissions, and state councils to that part of the law, so they too would have to make agendas available to the public before meetings. With that, I'd like to renew my motion.
All right, you've heard the explanation, and Representative Powell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm supportive of your bill. I just wanted to say that since this deals with agendas, I've seen an issue here with several different local boards where things are placed on an agenda, but it's just a word, or and it's then opened it up to a much broader discussion and topic that's oftentimes taken the community and public by surprise, because they just simply listed on the agenda a certain topic. Even seen this at retreats happen with some different governing boards. So I appreciate what you're doing, and hopefully those that publish these agendas will try to be more transparent about what they're going to discuss, and share more with the public, so that the community's not taken aback when they see all of a sudden that major policies are being formed and developed when they think it's just a discussion point. So thank you for the legislation. I'm supportive.
Thank Representative Bricken.
Thank you, and I appreciate that observation. And this legislation does try to add that agendas should have reasonably descriptions of matters to be deliberated. So hopefully that will help that.
Right. Is there any further discussion? Question's been called. We are voting on House Bill 2934 as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and you move out to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Thank you. And next up is item number 19, House Bill 2613 by Representative McCallum. We have a motion and a second, and I do believe you have an amendment as well, sir. Is that
Yes,
correct?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. It is drafting code 014161.
That is correct. That's what we have, and I believe it does rewrite the bill.
It does.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of adding the amendment to the bill, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That was kind of weak. All right. All right. We're adding the amendment to the bill. So you are recognized back on 2613 as amended, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, what this bill does is it creates a new type of license, a more restrictive liquor by the drink license, specifically for barbershops, cosmetology salons, and bar bars. Worked heavily with the ABC. This actually came to me from a constituent. What it does is it allows the sale of alcohol from, it would stop it at 10 p.m. instead of 3 a.m. Puts a cap at 15% of revenue for total revenue. Only 15% of the total revenue can come from liquor sales. He still has to sell foods, and we reduced the number of required seats from 40 seats to 20 seats. Again, this was a constituent issue. He has a barbershop in Williamson County, and he is currently selling liquor. And he says, I could give it away by law right now, but I'd like to recoup my cost. And with that, I renew my motion. Stand ready for questions.
All right. You've heard the explanation, and Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a question here. As it relates to these retail businesses, I had initially that it was restricting the sale of alcohol for a particular time. Can you just articulate just a little bit more what this legislation is intended to do?
Representative McCallum.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under current law and the current liquor by the drink license that he has, where he is a proper bar as defined by the state, he could sell alcohol to the hours up until 3 a.m. This is a more restrictive license for his particular business model. He's really a niche business model. It would cap it at 10 p.m. instead of the 3 a.m. period. It does nothing to prevent other people from applying for the actual full liquor by the drink license.
Okay, Representative Pearson.
So what I don't understand is why, I mean, this is kind of interfering in the way some of these businesses are operating, right? By saying there's this new license they have to apply to that's a little bit more restrictive just due to the time limit. I don't understand if this business owner or constituent doesn't want to sell any alcohol after 10 o'clock. Is he being forced to do so? Because I'm weary, and some of you understand this, but weary of the interference in the way that our businesses are running in this way.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. There's no interference here. This is a completely permissible license type. It is restricted to three different industries as I've listed. This does nothing to stop him from applying for the full liquor by the drink license. We're not interfering with or requiring him to have this license. This just says if you want to have this license type that is more that would apply better to his business model, he can apply for it. He could still go get the regular liquor by the drink license. So there's no interference with his business. It just says if you want to do this license, you can apply for it. If you want to apply for the full liquor by the drink license, you can do that as well. It's actually it's more restrictive, but it's more cost friendly to the business owners to be able to obtain this license. And currently it would allow them, which they cannot do right now, to be able to sell liquor by the drink, whereas right now they are unable to unless they have the 40 seats that is kind of not necessarily conducive to his business model as having a barbershop there. So there is no interference within his business. It's completely permissive for him to apply for this license if he wants it.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Representative Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor, I noticed in the memo you have cigar bars. Wouldn't cigar bars be under the same rules as a regular bar?
Representative McCallum, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. No, sir, they're not. A cigar bar sells cigars. If they wanted to have this license type, they could apply for it. And but right now, it would apply. It would be no different than if they wanted to get their regular liquor by the drink license. So it creates a new license that would help out other small businesses.
Okay. Any follow-up, Representative? Okay.
No, sir.
Next, we have Representative Powell.
Can just a clarification. So, because I had a piece of legislation years ago. So, currently, like if you're have a cosmetology license, or you're a non-barber shop, you can give away alcohol, right? But for some reason, barber shops, from my understanding, and I was going to maybe go to legal for this, are not allowed to give away alcohol, which I think is a little unusual. The best explanation I was given was because barbers use straight razors, which makes no sense. But I guess my question is, this is giving cosmetologists and barber shops the same abilities to serve alcohol or to sell alcohol, but this wouldn't change anything about giving away alcohol. Because I know if you go in to get your hair done, some of the ladies on the committee might know, you can get a glass of wine, but the gentlemen who go to a barber shop might not be able to get a beer. So could you speak to that? If we could go out of session, Mr. Chairman, step legal.
We will be glad to do that. Let's, at this time, we'll go out of session to hear from legal.
Thank you, Matt Mundy from legal. That is correct. It would not affect anything in the professional licensing titles that restricts or allows the ability to give away or not give away alcohol. If you're a barber shop or a cosmetology shop or a cigar bar and you meet these criteria in this bill, then you would be allowed to sell liquor up to a certain percentage of your gross revenue.
Okay.
That answered my question. We could go back in the session. I got another quick follow-up comment.
We
Unless somebody else
also, we do have Aaron back here in the back. If anybody has questions of him.
I
Good?
don't.
Are good?
No, I don't. Just
All right.
one comment.
If no other questions for legal, we are back in session. And Representative Powell.
No, so I'm actually will support this. I'm glad we're finally putting barbershops and cosmetology shops on equal footing, at least in this bill, but hopefully we can look at that. The difference that exists in the code as it stands now for being able to give out alcohol. So, because I've actually, several different barbershops are not aware of that, and want to make sure that doesn't ever shut somebody down from their, livelihood and their business because they're doing that. So, understand the bill, appreciate it, and support it. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Are we ready to vote? All right, all in favor of House Bill 2613 as amended, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and this bill will move out to Finance, Ways and Means. Next. I am. I didn't see Chairman's back here. All right, we will go out of session and we'll hand the gavel back over to Chairman Kiesling.
Representative McCallum, I need for you to work with me on this one. Well, let me bring us back in session. Okay. I need you to work with me on this one. Representative Alexander has really a pressing issue that she is going to have to get. Would you mind if we bumped, just held you right there, froze you
Not at
in
all, Mr.
time?
Chairman.
And will you want to present from your seat, Representative Alexander? Let me take your attention to that will be item number 39, please. Item number 39. Well, I thought that's the one. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Is it 38 or 39? It's Representative Hale's bill. Oh,
I'm sorry.
37.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
37.
I told you the wrong
So this
thing.
will be, she is filling in for Representative Hale. today. So there is, there are no amendments. So that'll be item number 37, House Bill 2444. Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I thank you, committee, and thank you, Jake. Appreciate that. Representative Hale asked me if I could carry this for him today. He would like to be here, but needs to be still taking care of his health. House Bill 2444 creates an exemption from the requirement of an inmate released on work release to wear an ankle GPS monitor. Inmates who receive written approval from the judge or the sheriff of the county in which they are incarcerated to be exempt from the requirement would be allowed to work on work release without the monitor. This legislation helps prevent businesses and inmates from being penalized for working to rehabilitate those convicted of crimes. The Tennessee Sheriff's Association is in full support of this legislation.
And so is the Senate, I see. They wound
Yes.
up going 30 versus 0. So
Yeah.
that with that, you have heard an explanation of the bill. Any questions to Representative Alexander? All right, we got a call for the question. Let us vote. Those in favor of House Bill 2444, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. And you may report to Representative Hale that he is moving on to calendar and rules. And thank you for filling in for him.
Thank you,
Representative
Chairman,
Alexander.
and thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you, Chairman, Representative McCollum. We're now on back to item 20, members, and that is House Bill 2200. And I see, Representative McCollum, an amendment. Would you please give us the tracking code?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. It is drafting code 014123.
All right, great. That is correct. We did get a motion and a second, didn't we? Yes, we did on the bill. Now we need a motion and a second on the amendment. Yes, and we did it again. Those, any objections to, let's vote. Those in favor of amendment 14123, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes prevail, and it is now on the bill. Representative McCollum, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Members, House Bill 2200 is going to authorize a secure and identity verification system. An example would be Amazon One. There's other brands of this technology, such as Clear, that you see in the airports. Currently, Amazon One is being used in the Bridgestone Arena and Whole Foods markets across the country and in airports for retail purchases. This technology is permissive for both customer and the merchant. It's being introduced to update some of the language in our statutes requiring the physical presentation of a driver's license when purchasing a product that stipulates the buyer be 21 years or older. And with that, I stand ready for questions.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any questions to my yes, Representative Pearson, recognize.
Thank you so much. So is it related to the technology that's being used? Because I thought at this point, everybody's ID gets checked when you're.
Representative McCollum.
So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative, what this technology would allow currently under the Amazon One format, you can have your credit card linked to your palm print. This would allow somebody who they decide, I want to have my driver's license linked to my palm print, similar to, not unlike self-checkout, but they go to Whole Foods, they want to buy a bottle of wine, they want to scan their product, scan their palm. This would allow them to be able to scan their palm print. It still has a physical human being able to confirm that, you know, Bubba here at buying this bottle of wine is indeed Bubba that I see on the screen here, and his license has been confirmed. So it would allow it's a permissive technology, one more arrow in the quiver for identity verification and technology.
Good explanation. Yes,
Yep.
sir. Yeah,
Thank you.
Representative Pearson, follow up.
Thank you, sponsor. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Further questions to the sponsor? Got a call for the question. I see no objections. Let us vote on House Bill 2200 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. No, the ayes have it. And you are headed to government ops on that one, Representative McCollum. And now let's move right on in. You are a very popular guy today. Item number 21, House Bill 2774. And, well, Okay, hold on. I have a dated calendar, so I'm just being, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if it would please the chairman and the committee, I'd like to roll this bill a week.
Of course, yeah, so granted. House Bill 2774 to the hill of the calendar. Very good. Thank you, sir. Item 22, Representative Miller, is he here? I do not see Representative Miller. He is, there he is. My goodness. Timing is perfect. Representative Miller. You do want to proceed, do you not? You don't want to go to the hill, do you, sir? Say no, Representative. No, Chairman.
Chairman.
So, all right. So here we are. Representative Miller with House Bill 2202. Representative Miller, you have an amendment. Would you please give us tracking code?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 015075.
That is correct. Right on. Let's get this on the bill. Those in favor of Amendment 15075, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Okay, it is now, it prevails, and it is now on the bill, House Bill 2202. Representative Miller.
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
recognized, sir.
Mr. Chairman, and pretty much the bill is self-explanatory. I'd like to try to get it to Finance, Ways and Means and let them work it out.
Certainly,
in that-
understand.
in that
Questions
committee.
to the sponsor? Oh, yes, we do. Yes, Speaker Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Representative Miller, is this tied to index by any chance?
Representative Miller.
Yes, it is.
All right.
It is indexed.
All right, thank
Speaker
you.
Johnson. Speaker Johnson says that's it for him, I think. Any further questions? Got a call for the question? Yes, we do. No objections? Let's vote. House Bill 2202 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Ayes prevail. And
Mr. Chairman, members
we
of the
will
committee.
move on to Representative Miller. You're headed finance, sir. Just where you wanted to be, wasn't it, sir? Okay. Item 23, Chairman Terry. Chairman Terry's coming in with House Bill 2373. We've got a motion and a second. And Dr. Terry, you have an amendment, do you not? Would you give us that tracking code, please?
15880.
That is correct. That is correct. Yes, and we got a motion already and a second on Amendment 15880. Let's get it on the bill. Those in favor of, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Ayes prevail. And Chairman Terry, it is now on your bill, House Bill 2373. You may proceed, sir.
All right, thank you. And what I'm looking to do here is to codify current practice that a meeting between state legislators and local governing officials, when it does not constitute a meeting under the Sunshine Law, provided that the meeting is informational or it is to discuss state matters.
Very good. You've heard an explanation, members, of the bill. Any questions to Chairman Terry? I see none. Are we ready to vote? Got a call for the question. Let's go. Those in favor of House Bill 2373 as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. And you are headed on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman of the Committee.
Chairman Terry. Item 24, House Bill 1818 by Representative Butler. Representative Butler, do you have any amendments? You do. We got a motion and a second on your bill. Yes. Would you give us the tracking code, please, sir?
Thank you, Chairman. It's 014054.
That is correct, sir. Let's get this one on the bill. Got a motion and a second. Those in favor of Amendment 14054, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. It is now Representative Butler on your bill, and that is again House Bill 1818. You are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This legislation creates a recall process for non-constitutional officers, elected officials. And the process has the amendment clarifies the bar that is required in order to do that. And it requires 66% of the votes that individual received in the previous election. And it kind of was modeled after a piece of legislation in Georgia that sets the bar at 66%. So in Georgia, that's been used twice for recall purposes. So it sets the bar fairly high. And then that individual can only be recalled during a general or a primary election. So it's not going to require a special election. With that, I renew my motion. and answer any
Certainly.
questions.
Okay. You have heard that explanation of the bill. Representative Pearson, you are up first, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chairman and Sponsor. I do have a couple of questions. One of the things that I think about is, the best time for folks to make their opinions known about an elected official is at the ballot box. And I'm concerned about this recall sort of legislation. But to you, which offices in the two examples that you mentioned in Georgia were the recall elections held for?
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This would address non-constitutional officers. That'd be a city mayors, aldermen, city council, school board, those types of elected officials, and it provides a means of accountability for the electorate to be able to hold their elected officials accountable.
Back to you, Representative Pearson.
Yes. My question was, in the two examples that you mentioned in Georgia, Sponsor, what were the positions that were recalled?
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not exactly sure on what the specifics on that. I just know that it's been used in Georgia.
Okay.
To use that as an
Representative
example.
Pearson, follow up? No?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
So-
Go ahead, sir.
Again, I think the electoral process and the way that it is currently designed, where for us it's every 2 years, but for whomever in the city council every 4 years, it presents the best opportunity for individuals to sort of make their voices heard about who they want to represent them and not. And I don't think that's something that we necessarily need to be intervening in. And I look at the grounds and looking at the legal summary here, Sponsor, one of the things is lack of confidence, and that's pretty broad discretion. And you mentioned this is going to happen. The percentage is 66%. But for folks like me, right, I won in a special election, so there's a lot less voter turnout, and in my first election at least. And so you have the possibility where it could be 600, 500, 1,000 people who could actually recall someone. It's not guaranteed that it's going to be the tens of thousands. And we know we have the lowest voter turnout in the country in this state due to a lot of our tactics and voter suppression. And so I don't think even that threshold is a good one. I think the reality is when people go to the polls and they select the people to elect them, the time to end that process is if and when they run again. And enough public pressure hopefully get some folks to resign, or if they're doing something that's articulated here, or at least that I'm at least reading in the summary, when it comes to the violations of their oath of office or doing things that are wrong, they're the courts for that. But I don't think that's our responsibility or our right to do that. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. You're welcome. And Representative Powell, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Sponsor, I have a lot of concerns with the bill. I'll say something people probably didn't think would come out of my mouth today that people in this committee probably agree with, but some other states, I think of California, have been bogged down by over recalling elected officials. And I think that's had a detrimental effect to that state. What I worry about is if, a county official has to make a difficult decision that, say there could be a recall process while there's maybe even a referendum going on that elected official has gotten involved with. And I also think this could have an unforeseen situation where it could really hurt specifically local, if not state bond ratings, because you're basically taking away the certainty of the stability that we have when we elect our public officials in the state of Tennessee and in our non-constitutional offices. So I just think there's a lot of problems with the bill that we're not thinking through. And my colleague from Shelby County addressed the one is, we could have a situation where there could be a recall petition based upon a fairly low turnout election where that person might have been unopposed and there was very little turnout. And then you could see a recall to try to manipulate the process. So I understand where you're going here, and I understand maybe the issue that you're having in your local community, but this hasn't been a problem in the city that I represent. So for that reason, I can't support your legislation, and happy to give me rebuttal for any of those, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Powell, and yes to you, Representative Butler.
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
recognized.
Chairman. The genesis of this piece of legislation began from a city councilman in a community that had a restraining order not to be on city property, and he refused to resign. So that's where this kind of began, was having a bad actor that really the elected individuals have no way to recall this person. So number one, I want to point out this is non-constitutional officers, so it will not apply to any office that is required in the Constitution. So this wouldn't apply to your county commissioners. It wouldn't apply to your sheriff. It wouldn't apply to anybody in the General Assembly. Those types of offices are not applicable to this particular legislation.
Representative Powell, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my rebuttal here is, this is not a permissive piece of legislation. So this basically becomes now the policy in the city I represent, and I sympathize that happened in your community. I think a better avenue for this would be to make it permissive. So if a community wanted to adopt this, they could. But again, I go back to, this is essentially creating this one issue that you had in your community and making it potentially a statewide issue. And, I tend to think that government works best when it's closest to the people. And here we are forcing this referendum opportunity upon our locals that could get out of control. And it has gotten out of control in other states. And I think there's a reason why we don't have this on the books in Tennessee. And I have a major issue with it. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Powers. Recognized.
Pass.
Pass.
Yeah.
He passes. Any further questions to, yes, Representative Pearson?
Yep. Thank you so much, Chairman. And again, I appreciate that example that you had there, sponsor, and wanting to ensure that public and the people who are being represented have some say. And talking with legal here, look, for the constitutional folks, there is a method or a means for ouster, and there's not necessarily the same thing for non-constitutional officers. So I understand the intent of the legislation. I looked up one of the examples that you mentioned down in Georgia, and it's in Woodbury, and it's a town of about 900 people who used the recall because they were the city councilors and folks were upset about the city's budgeting process as well as the water system. I mean, there are decisions that some elected leaders may be making that are not the most popular, but maybe the best ones at that time. And I am concerned about people. You mentioned bad actors of a city councilor who should have resigned, but there are also bad actors in the public who could be forcing these recall elections onto our counties and into our, not counties, they wouldn't be included, into our city governments for our mayors and for our city councilors, which could be cumbersome and burdensome and distract away from the issues that need to be addressed in our communities. And so while I do understand and I appreciate legal's answer my questions, I can't support your legislation. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, we got a call for the question. Okay, we got a call for the question. Are you ready? All right. Any objections to the call of question? No? All right, we're ready to vote. Those in favor of House Bill 1818 as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. And please, those that are on no, please notify the clerk. And you are headed to, this one is headed to Finance. Representative Butler. And let's see.
Thank you, Chairman.
Bear with me. Correct. Yes, I was just reminded. We off notice on 25. 25 is off notice. Moving on, 26. Chairman Vaughn, get up here, sir. Good to see you. You got a motion and a second already, Chairman Vaughn, but before you're allowed to speak, you need to tell us what your amendment code is, sir.
Yes, sir. My amendment code is
Wait a minute, you've got two. Am I right? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's begin with one. Give me that tracking code, sir.
017335.
Or
Or
Well, we can.
015518.
That's right. That's correct. That's number one. Yes. Let's get a motion. Yeah, we've already got a motion and a second on 015518. Let's get it on. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. It's on. Amendment 2, sir.
That one, I believe, sir, is 017335.
That is correct, sir. And we already have a motion and a second on this one. Though no objection, those in favor of Amendment 17335, please say aye. Those opposed, nope. Ayes have it. It is now on the bill, and you, sir, are recognized. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you, sir. I'm
You're
glad
always
to be
looking
here.
good there. Yes, sir.
Always better to be seen than viewed.
Well, you may proceed, sir.
Yes, sir. This is not the Magna Carta of legislation.
Okay.
I'll just let you know.
Yeah, yes, I've just got to lean into it a little bit more.
You may or may not be aware, but in the health boards, whenever a registrant or licensee requests an opinion from the Department of Health, they can get letters written with the opinion whenever they're seeking information from them. Heretofore, that has not been the case with regards to commerce and insurance regulatory boards. This bill will allow that to happen. Say if I'm a licensed engineer and if I'm trying to figure out a question for how to run my practice, I can request them and then I get documentation for my file, which would give me the basis for decisions that I make moving on. Heretofore, they've always been verbal, and with turnover in the departments, you may not get the same person. And so what this does is this allows departments to issue a letter that you can rely on moving forward with whatever issue you have.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation. Any questions? Yes, Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you so much, sponsor. I in researching this, I didn't have a position sort of on this bill. I am curious to what you just articulated, though. If you receive this letter, as I understand private letter rulings, and honestly, the only time I've heard of these is relates to the IRS, and so I'm getting some new information from you here and with this legislation. But you said they are able to issue this private letter ruling, but it's not binding necessarily, or is the assumption that it would be binding for that individual, but not for other people who might have a similar issue?
Well,
Chairman Bond.
Yes, sir. I think that depends. What it does, it provides a basis to explain your actions moving forward. One of the department's amendments was this last one that says the private letter ruling only affects the person making the inquiry and shall have no precedential value for any other inquiry or future contested case to come before the state entity or under such program. So it deals with the facts of that case. It leaves documentation of what decision was made, why it was made, and what the person relied on.
Okay.
Representative Pearson, follow up.
Nope. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, sponsor.
Okay. He says done. He is done. And now we have a call for the question. I see no objections. Let's vote on House Bill 2097 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, nope. Ayes have it. And Chairman, you are moving on to Gov Ops, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Good to
Happy
spend some time
trails
with you
out
today.
there.
Happy Hamburger Day to you.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. Absolutely. We've been looking forward to Chairman Howell. Chairman Howell, we're going to ask you to jump up there, and you've already got a motion and a second, but you also have an amendment. Would you please, sir?
I do.
Give us that tracking code.
14683.
Correct. 14683. Members, do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? We do. Let us get it on. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Chairman, it is now on your bill, House Bill 2103 as amended. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I always look forward to coming to this committee.
Thank you, sir.
House Bill 2103 addresses a problem that arose following a high wind and snow storm back in January. There was severe damage to the Fort Loudon Marina in Lenoir City, just off I-75. The damage was such that it presented some real safety issues to the workers and the teams of divers and salvage operators trying to safely remove the debris from the water. Also, the wakes from the boats created additional hazards, additional oil and gas spills, as well as some near misses to the workers who were in the water.
The marina requested emergency assistance from the TWRA. They were more than happy to assist. Unfortunately, the TWRA could not immediately issue an emergency no wake rule because of the public notification that's required several days. So what this bill does, if approved, would give the executive director of the TWRA the ability to declare a special temporary no wake zone in emergency situations like this. It has no bearing on the current law that requires the requirement for emergency rule making, but this is just a standalone rule in
Very good.
emergencies.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Any questions to Chairman Howe? No, I've got we're ready to go. Boy, well said, Chairman. Okay. We've got a call for the question. I see no objections. We're ready to vote on House Bill 2103 as amended, excuse me. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. And Chairman, congratulations. You're headed to calendar and rules, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
Yes, sir. Happy Easter to you, sir. All right. Item number 28 has been, please note, members, it has been moved to the Hill. Moving on. Item number 20, that's item 28, HJR 830 to the Hill. Item 29, HJR 0854 by, our own Representative Timothy Hill. Good to have you with us today, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And we got a motion and a second, and you, sir, are recognized.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This is House Joint Resolution 854 requesting that August 11th, 2024 be designated as Sheriff Eddie Tester Day. I would just like to take a quick moment to talk to you about my friend
Please
Eddie.
do. Yes.
Eddie was the type of person who did not care about what he was doing as long as he was serving. In many ways, he lived the American dream, seeking to serve his community. He started out as a CNA at Mountain City Care Center. He later became a dispatcher and a deputy for Johnson County Sheriff's Department. He served in the Tennessee Highway Patrol for 18 years. And upon retirement from the state, Eddie was elected sheriff in 2018 and was reelected in 2022. In the meantime, he served on the Johnson County Rescue Squad as an EMT and later as a paramedic. And what did he do in his free time? Committee, you might ask. He volunteered his time with the Trade Volunteer Fire Department. I bring the resolution not only to bring comfort to his wife of 35 years, Brenda, but as a testament that when servant leaders pass, there's an absence that should be reflected on, and his life of service stands as an example to us all. And August 11th, 2024 will mark 1 year since the passing of Sheriff Tester, and I believe it's something that should be honored. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I seek passage.
Well said, sir. Very much. Well, we certainly appreciate his service. Okay. Any questions? Yes, we got a motion. We've already got a question called on the bill. Let us, that said, no objections. Let us vote on HJR 854. Please say, those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. And you are moving on to calendar and rules, sir. Thank you for carrying that. Item number 30, House Bill 2864 by Representative Towns. Where is that man? He is not here with us, so we'll send him to the Hill. Okay. All right. Moving on. Oh, all right. Okay, members, heads up. Item number 31, House Bill 2354 has been requested to be moved to the Hill as well. Moving on to item number 32, House Bill 2610, and we have Representative Garrett with us today. Representative Garrett, we got a motion and a second on this one, don't we? Okay. My goodness, how many pages are we got here? I see an amendment. Representative Garrett, would you please give us that tracking code?
If
sir?
you would, I don't have it handy, but there's only one, so I believe that's the.
That's okay. How does 14812 sound to
it.
you? You call that a winner, don't you? He
That's
says
winner.
that's a winner. So let's get a motion and a second on this one. Let's get it on the bill. Those in favor of amendment 14812, please say aye. Those opposed, nope. Ayes have it. It is on the bill. You are now recognized, Representative Garrett, on House Bill 2610 as amended, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2610 as amended originally put the Human Rights Commission underneath the AG's purview. All this, the amendment now just says the AG is directed to take a look at it, see the feasibility of having the Human Rights Commission under the AG. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Of course. Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And there is an explanation by Representative Garrett. Representative Pearson, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Sponsor, can you explain why this would be beneficial? I struggle to see how it would make any sense to move the Human Rights Commission under the Attorney General.
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No one should ever be discriminated against for housing, their race, gender, color, et cetera, right? That just shouldn't happen whatsoever. And so I want to be able to see if it makes sense to strengthen any potential penalties or hopefully stop that practice from happening if such folks are doing that. There's no better place for that to happen underneath the AG's office, where we have the ability to investigate claims, potentially weed out any claims that may not rise to the level of any type of discrimination. So that's what this bill is going to do, is just look at those possibilities. So it may come back and say, this may not be a good idea. So that's what this piece of legislation does, is to look at that from the AG's perspective to see the feasibility of this. And then they'll report back.
Follow up, Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. Sponsor, today, if those claims are made, is the Attorney General not able to offer support to the Human Rights Commission?
I'm sorry. Wait, go ahead, Representative Garrett. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If they do, that would be up to the commission to ask the AG for that advice. I'm not aware that he or his office wouldn't be available to provide that type of assistance, but it'd be a little bit different if it was under his purview. But I don't believe that if they had a particular issue that the AG or his office need to be involved in, that they would otherwise say, no, we're not going to get involved. So I would believe they'd be at the assistance if they should choose, and that would fall in the purview of the AG's office.
Okay. Final question.
Yep.
Final question. Yes, yes, go
Thank you,
right ahead,
Chairman. Hey, look,
Representative.
I'm glad glad about the amendment. I think it's a horrible idea for us to take the Human Rights Commission and put it under the Attorney General. I think it's important that it actually be separate from other institutions. You could even have a claim potentially against an Attorney General or against people within a particular department. And so by making it subservient to another institution that needs its own checks and balances, I think is just not a good idea. And again, we think about big government, like you're talking about increasing the Attorney General's office some more than all of the money and resources we've already spent in it. And so that's another reason that I'm against it. But I think the Human Rights Commission needs to be allowed to be able to do its work independent of the Attorney General. Thank you, Chairman.
Representative Powell, you're recognized, sir.
I guess my question is, I was just saw that our Attorney General is leading a case to challenge federal diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if that's the case, then why would we take someone that believes is against diversity, equity, and inclusion and take something like the Human Rights Commission that is supposed to protect things like diversity, equity, inclusion, and put him under it? If he doesn't believe in those things, why would we do that?
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe I can adequately respond to something you're saying the AG believes in or what they don't believe in. So that's not this bill has nothing to do with that. And has nothing to do with diversity, equity, or inclusion. This is simply discrimination based upon what the jurisdiction of the Human Resource Commission has. And that's not part of, I believe, of what their blanket is when someone is discriminated against based on housing or based upon their race, color, or gender. So I can't speak to the feelings or the purview of what the AG thinks.
Well, what I can tell you is our Attorney General is leading a national effort with other states to against national federal policy against diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's not how he thinks, it's how he acts. So I have real concerns with this, and I'm opposed to the bill. Thank you.
Representative McCallum, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Question has been called. Move previous question. Any objections? I see none. Those in favor of House Bill 2610 as amended, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Please record, make a wink down there to the clerk and make sure he gets your no vote on there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All
and committee.
right, thank you, Representative Garrett. Happy trails. And what we're going, Gov Ops, Representative Garrett. We are going to, I'm sorry, we've been, Chair Lady Littleton, as personal order, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Representative Fritz has his boss of the day with him, his grandson Gavin. If he
Oh,
could stand
yes.
up, let's make him up. Look how cute he is. Oh, and his wife is actually in the back as well, but I'm pretty sure the grandson is the boss of the day.
All right. Okay, what we will do is we will take Representative Travis, we're going to go ahead and recognize you, but then we're going to do something a little bit different following you. Item number 33, House Bill 2950, got a motion and a second. You got an amendment, please give us that tracking code,
Yes,
Representative Travis.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's 015019.
That is correct, sir. Got a motion? Let me get a motion. Got a motion and a second on the amendment. Those in favor? No objections? Those in favor, please say aye. Those no. Okay, ayes have it, and it is now on the bill. You are recognized on House Bill 2950 as amended, Representative Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill will require that each license for consumption of alcohol beverage on the premise to post a minimum of $10,000 bond with the Department of Revenue. And the reason that this is because, like your chairman up there, he's an insurance agent. If it changes from 6,000 to 7,000 next year, it comes under a minimum premium anyway. So you can buy a $10,000 bond as cheap as you can buy a $1,000 bond. But this creates more work on the agents to go to the bond company to write the bond, to send it back to the agent to send it to the Department of Revenue. And, you know, that's a long process in the thing. So if you do a $10,000 minimum bond, that should take care of you for the next 5 or
Well
6
said.
years.
Thank you, sir. And that is correct. Surety companies are that way. There's always a minimum premium. You're correct. Any questions to the sponsor? I see none. Got a call for the question. No objection. We're ready to vote on House Bill 2950 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. And you are headed to Gov Ops. Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman.
We are now, earlier, members, as you recall, that was item number 30, House Bill 2864 by our dear friend, Representative Towns. We are glad to have you back. We put you down on the hill, but now you owe us.
Yes,
We
sir.
are going to bring you back, and you are now recognized on House Bill 2860. I'm just kidding. For the record,
No
you
problem,
know
sir.
that. House Bill 2864. You're recognized. You got a motion, didn't we? Yes, we do have a motion in a second. You're recognized, sir.
Well, thank you, and I don't mind paying you since and barbecue as well as in the fact that Priscilla Presley is here today, up on the 5th floor in our delegation meeting. Just me sharing that with you alone is enough for payback. Okay,
Got it. Yes,
and
sir.
she actually is, and unfortunately, she was not here last week for the signing of the Elvis bill, but she's
Oh,
here today. in our
okay. Well,
delegation.
thank
Just
you
thought
for
I'd make
saying
that
that.
announcement
Thank
to the
you.
members. Members, this is a simple bill. You all see where it is over in the Senate. It's already passed, and what it is, we have a state tree, state bird, and we have state slaw now. We have all kinds of things that denote something that Tennessee is very, very good at, exceptional at. And we even have 2 state birds, a mockingbird and another bird. And that mockingbird can't mock the barbecue that we have in Tennessee, especially 40 West, Memphis, Tennessee. And if any of y'all had an opportunity to go down there and taste it, I'll tell you, it's the best in the world. When we get to heaven, we'll look for a little barbecue. okay?
Amen.
So with that explanation, I'd love to, to pass it out of here and catch up with the Senate because it's some of our greatest cuisine and we're real proud of it. And that really explains, it doesn't need an
Sure.
explanation. Y'all
Thank
know
you,
what
sir.
it is.
Appreciate it. Any questions? Yes, we do. Representative Butler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering if we're going to be getting any samples of this Shelby County barbecue.
Representative Towns.
See, you're a man that's reading my mind. I'm already working on it for real. You're kidding, but I'm serious. Okay.
Oh, I'm serious.
And you'll be first in line. I'm serious about it. I'm serious
Representative Butler, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have specific barbecue place down there I have in mind as a sample, so
Now,
we'll get with you after committee.
no,
for
no,
that.
I'd love to hear it. Put it on the record. Put it on the record.
Thank you,
Representative
Mr.
Butler.
Chairman. Some rendezvous would be exceptional.
So I can tell you now, the town of Rendezvous is great barbecue, but it's great barbecue. But I got something else up my sleeve for you. Okay?
Oh, okay. All right. Next, Representative McCallum, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And sponsor, I appreciate you bringing this bill. I was happy to co-sponsor, but I just thought of something. And it's a little vague in there. We're listing that as an official state food. Are we talking dry rub? We talking wet ribs? What? I mean, whole hog? I mean, would you consider a friendly amendment?
Representative Towns.
I can tell he's a newbie. Okay. I should have disclosed this earlier. I've been in the business myself. I've owned 2 restaurants. Okay. Barbecue restaurants. Okay. I can take your worst enemy and put them on the grill and make it taste good. So it's whatever your choice is. Okay. I'm gonna let you figure that out.
Representative McCallum, follow up.
No, sir.
No.
Thank you for the bringing the samples.
He says not. We're next. Chairman Powers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the sponsor. I think the chairman and many others on here will recognize that East Tennessee barbecue is actually better than Memphis barbecue.
Oh, let me,
Well,
Mr. Chairman, let me clear my ears.
Representative Towns.
I want to see if he has the nerve to say that twice. Okay. I got some Memphis members in here. We know there's good barbecue across the state of Tennessee. We take issue with that. We're still gonna leave you in the will, but it's not true.
Okay. Follow up, Chairman. No, Chairman Powers says no. Chair Lady Carringer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And just to add along with my East Tennessee rep down here, we do think we have some great barbecue too. But I just had to say something to my good friend sponsor up there. We know you have great barbecue but we also know that you have something else great down in Memphis is the good water. So I'm expecting, because we've had this conversation many times and he's made me just be a freak about my water now. So I'm expecting some barbecue and some good water from.
All right. And yes, Representative Towns, reply.
Mr. Chairman, she is so right. She's accurate. And this is no exaggeration, ladies and gentlemen. That water is some of the best water in the world. We have great water, okay? And if you've ever tasted the water, you be holding it back home because it's just that good. It is very good water, okay? Down in our aquifers, deep down in our aquifers, that's when we're so protective of it, trying to keep it protected based upon, things that could happen to it. But that water is absolutely, I call it delicious. It's just delicious water. It really is.
All right. Follow up, Chair Lady. She says no. Chairman Eldridge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With all the talk about the barbecue and we've had the hot slaw, last year we had pumpkin pie, and you can't complete it without sliced tomatoes from Granger County. So plan on next year. No, I'm not offering an amendment, but plan on next year. We're going to have to do something for those tomato folks in Granger County.
Telling you.
All right.
That's an amen, isn't it,
Amen.
Representative Towns?
Amen.
All
Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome. Closing remarks, Chairman Towns, you're up.
Thank you all. We all are proud of our culinary, skills and our foods across the state of Tennessee. And want to keep it clean and great for the people to eat forever. Okay. Thank you for that.
All right, you're very kind. All right, okay. No further questions to the sponsor. We are ready to vote on House Bill 2864. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes prevail. And Representative Towns, you're headed now to calendar and rules. Thank you, sir, and congratulations. Now we're within 10 minutes. Now, what I'm going to do right now, we have Chairman Eldridge and I have a little gift for each of you who remain seated. Now we're going to go on. We're going to keep moving, but we're going to ask our intern, Miss Lacey Hunter, to begin her distribution of your gift. And it is Easter. I want to take an opportunity to wish each and every a happy Easter. Of course, that's on behalf of Chairman Eldridge as well. But anyway, let's move along. Item number 34, House Bill 2674 by Representative Shaw. He is not here. We will move him to the hill. Let's keep moving quickly. Item number 35, House Bill 2618. Chairman Gillespie? I see no Gillespie. So we will move 2618, House Bill 2618 to the Hill as well. Item number 36. House Bill 2419. Representative Barrett. Yes, you are here, sir. You are here. And we got a motion and a second. No amendment. Representative Barrett, good to have you with us today, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to get the opportunity to slide in here behind the barbecue discussion. I think Chair Lady Littleton would argue that Dixon County's been home to some of the finest barbecue in the entire state in her district, with the Perfect Pig and her constituent Carl Teloff, who's recently retired. But I think we can all lay claim to some great barbecue in the state of Tennessee.
There you go. Yes, sir.
All right, members, this is House Bill 2419, which seeks to address an issue that we've had with a court ruling recently with the Court of Appeals. In Title 10, this body has created many years ago a streamlined, expedited judicial review process for requests by citizens to enforce a request for access to public records. And recently, the Court of Appeals has seen fit to allow third parties, issue a ruling that allowed third parties to intervene into those requests. And unfortunately, the fallout of that and the unintended consequences is now we have what was once a relatively cheap and expedited process is quickly becoming something that is going to be unaffordable and unwieldy for regular Tennesseans. And so this bill is necessary to come forward today to protect the rights of citizens, particularly middle class and regular working day citizens, to be able to access public records. And so with that, Chairman, I will stand ready to take
Thank
any
you. Very good.
questions.
All right. Very good explanation. 5 minutes and counting. Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. Sponsor, I have a little bit of a problem with this because it's reducing the amount of petitioners that are possible. And the law actually seems a little bit contradictory, and this is why. If you go to 107-505, any citizen of Tennessee who shall request the right of personal inspection of any state, county, municipal record, and whose request has been in whole or in part denied by the official and or designee of the official through any act or regulation of any official or designee of any official, shall be entitled to petition for access to any such record and to obtain judicial review for the actions taken. And this is amending only by adding that the requester is able to file in action under this section. An intervention by a non-governmental third party in a public records lawsuit is not permitted. However, if there is a non-governmental third party who is a party to the suit, why would we be denying their ability to be able to petition the court?
Representative Barrett.
Because as you read the first part of that statute, the law creates an individual right. So an individual has the right to assert their interest in obtaining these documents. And what this law will do will prevent a third party from stepping in to intervene and interfere with that person exercising their rights through the courts.
Representative Pearson.
Now,
quickly.
thank you. Is that nonprofit or is that third party preventing or anyway seeking to prevent that individual from accessing it, or are they seeking to help them to make sure that they get access to it? Because what I'm thinking about are the people who might not have access to the legalese or the legal resources, who are in cohort or working with other firms or lawyers to help them to get access to information that we want for them to have because they're public records. And now this is saying you all don't deserve to get access to that information because you as an individual don't have the skill, don't have the know-how in order to be able to do it.
You want to follow up or renew? Well, go ahead. Yeah, Representative Barrett.
So what we're dealing with here is a third party that's intervening to be a party in the suit, not to assist a party to exercise their right. And so the issue is that third parties do not fall under the same rules that the individual has. For instance, if a third party intervenes into a lawsuit, causes that lawsuit to drag out and increase to hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees, there's no provision under the statute now, if that lawsuit is lost or won, for that third party intervener to have to pay court costs or attorney's fees. So the individual who originally filed their complaint, they would have the right to seek attorney's fees or court costs if they win. But now, if this third party is allowed to intervene and run up all the costs and drag this thing out for years and years, the individual is the one that's going to be the one that loses in this. And we're going to have a situation where highly funded, outside influences are stepping in that don't have a nexus between the individual and the government body or person official that is making the decision. So what we're trying to do is streamline this so that we only have a direct line of communication between the citizen and the government official or body that is making the decision, and the courts step in order to make sure that there's a quick and speedy resolution of that.
120 seconds
There you
remaining.
go.
We
I can,
must
I,
move.
I can appreciate that. That's
Yes,
something
sir,
that we can
please.
talk more
Quickly.
about. I've actually intervened in a lawsuit on behalf of a nonprofit organization, so don't know if this is seeking, how this is seeking or would have influenced that decision that we ultimately got to. So thank you for answering the questions. I appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Any objections to the call? We got a call question. Any objections? Nope. Let's vote on House Bill 2419. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, nope. The ayes have it. Please record your no vote. Now,
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
that, by the way, that is going to calendar and rules. Representative Barrett, FYI. The remainder now, members of the calendar, will be rolled to our next meeting. And I need a motion to adjourn. Motion. Yes. I got a motion. Got a
That's right.
second to adjourn.
I do, Mr. Chairman,
We-
I could recognize
Yes.
our chair of the Memphis Shelby County School Board, Althea Green, and also our amazing board member and my board member on the council as well, Ms. Michelle McKissick. Thank you all so much for being here and for representing our school so well.